Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to a new video. In this video I'm gonna show my game from round number 6 versus the very young Hungarian FIDE master Pasti. He is rated 2370 and the game started with a very classical Italian, and I decided to go for c3 and an immediate d4, which is a very direct line. Black has not so much scope to deviate. He needs to play knight f6, pressuring my center. And also here his moves are pretty forced. Needs to go d5, needs to go knight e4, takes. Now there's a divide between bishop b4 and bishop b6, which is the main line, and he chose to stick to the main line, knight c3, castles, and bishop e3. It's always important to note that you should not castle too early, because often it's an idea to capture with the g-pawn, and in this case it would be nice when our king is still flexible and we can use the open g-line. So remember, don't castle too early here, just start with the moves knight c3 and bishop e3. This is usually more flexible and better. This is still a very common position, which I had many times and which had been played thousands of times. And the main moves here are bishop to g4 or pawn to f5. But my opponent already here surprised me with a move which I have not studied in detail before, which is knight e7. This is quite a common motive. Sidestepping the knight, maybe coming here. But at this moment I was not so familiar with it, but I think I played a solid move, going back with the bishop. The bishop has done its job, pinning the knight. Now there is nothing to gain there, so we centralize it, putting pressure on e4. So now I expected him, and he should have gone something like f5, stabilizing the knight, and then I can try to stop f4, and he can try this check. But after king f1, white is a bit better. Basically, this bishop is maybe not a good piece. Also this knight, it's not clear where it's going. I have good control here. Maybe I can expand here, and yeah, white is fine. But this was the way to go. It's not much better for white, just a little. In the game, instead, he took on c3, which is most of the times not so great, because it really helps me solidify my center. And I have no issues in the center. So it's very stable, my bishops are very stable. It's just very comfortable for white. So he continued with bishop f5. I castled. He protected the bishop. And now, if you want to challenge yourself again, you can pause the video here and try to come up with a plan for white. There are several options, and we'll discuss a few of them. So, for me, it came down to two different options, basically. Maybe there are even more, but for me it was a question: should I play knight h4 immediately, or should I include a4 first? Okay, why is knight h4 an idea at all? So the basic idea is fighting for this f5 square and getting the f-pawn moving. So an ideal scenario for white would be something like this. Black is doing something slow, and then my f-pawn would start rolling, and once it goes there, white probably has a winning attack. And the basic strategic concept is I have an extra pawn on this side, and this can give me a huge advantage when I start an attack. Okay, but things are not that easy, and let me quickly explain you why this a4 move might make sense. Sometimes I thought it's an idea for him, if I would start like this, that he might play rook c8. Okay, I might go f4, and he might try to get some counterplay with c5. And in such case, it would be useful for us if we would include some moves like a4, a5, because, okay, black needs to do something, because otherwise I trap the bishop. And if something like this and he's getting ready for c5, this bishop is a bit more loose. It's not protected by the a7 pawn any longer, and in some cases I can try to attack the bishop on the b line, which is maybe a bit uncomfortable in some instances. So that's the reason why a4 might make sense, and that's why I decided to go for a4 first. Are there other plans? Yes, probably. Maybe you can also try to play queen c2, also trying to create pressure on f5, but in this case I thought maybe I'm just losing time and I would rather have the knight here, that my f-pawn is ready to move, which would not be the case here, but it's maybe also reasonable. What else? Maybe also h3 is a waiting move, which makes some sense, but I like the more direct approach. And indeed, after a4 he played c6, which made me happy because, okay, c6 is kind of a waste of time if he wants to go c5, and he will probably never go c5 now, because I could maybe push the bishop away then. So a4 was kind of a success, and then I succeeded with this plan, and now if he is doing nothing, I will just push. So he decided, and I also expected, that he might go for the weird looking, very aggressive queen g4, trying to make me a bit uncomfortable with this knight. And now if you want to challenge yourself again, try to come up with a move here. Basically there are just two options, either g3 or knight f3. And I will continue with what happened. For me it was clear, if I go back here it is kind of a minor success for him because my plan is slowed down by a lot. So I tried to consider g3, and the weakening of my squares around my king is not that important because he has just one attacker, and also I have an extra pawn on this wing, so it's not so easy for him to get through. There were some lines I calculated, for example something like this, and aggressive g5, but things are working out well for white. I could take here for example, and if he starts taking there first and then goes g5, I can just take, he can take. But in general the problem for black is that his king is more vulnerable, I have more protection around, also this pawn is a bit annoying, and those pawns, they just go nowhere at the moment, and I might have some kingside attacking chances. So that would be a line which is clearly better for white, but white is better in any case, so that's something he might have considered. Instead he chose to play queen e4, which is not that great. I could just have taken and play something like rook fe1 here. I have advantages in the center, this pawn is weak, also on the queen side I have some bind with this far advanced pawn, and yeah, white is a lot better here. But I decided to play queen e2, which is a bit inaccurate. My idea was trapping his queen, but it's not happening since he has knight f5. I need to take. And now I made another, yeah, not so great decision. It was okay, but there was something which I really misevaluated, which is g4. I considered this and I thought it's very aggressive, but I disliked f5. But indeed the computers are telling that something like this is very stable for white, but I was a bit afraid that all my pawns are on the dark squares. I have a bad bishop, but it's very stable, black is not coming through. I have a space advantage and I can try to create pressure on the queen side while he really cannot attack anything. So this would have been a decent option, but I decided to play on the queen side and try to create some threats. However, sometimes I missed some tiny nuances. I expected him to go here so that he can answer c4 in case I play it with rook d8, or take and rook d8, which is very reasonable. However, he played a very strange rook f to b8, and I felt his pieces are kind of stuck. However, I missed some tactical details. I should have gone rook b3 here, after which I can step by step increase the pressure against b7, maybe also opening, maybe pushing at some point, but pressure is increasing. Instead I played c4 immediately, which is a mistake because he could reroute his rook to d8, because a5 is not winning as I suspected, because he can just take, because my rook is loose. So that's why it was better to remove the rook first. I could take here, but okay, this is not so clear. Probably also c6 dropping, but okay, if I take c6, then maybe this is dropping as well, and maybe black is able to hold here. However, I'm wondering, so maybe not. It's very forced here, and I was thinking about rook to f7, because this rook is loose. Maybe that's a problem. Is there something better? Maybe I can remove this rook first and only then take, or create some pressure. That seems more reasonable to me. You can check this and write it in the comments if you want, if this is true. Do we need to play rook c8 first? Okay, let's go back to the game. He didn't play rook d8, he didn't take this chance, but played queen e6, which is a mistake. It creates another weakness on e6, and he's really stuck now. I should have played king g2 immediately. I thought I would improve my rook so that I can double more quickly. But it would have been better just to improve the king, f4, king to the center. And he can never really push because he's left with so many weaknesses, and I'm very fast trying to create passes on the king side. However, rook a2 was a bit slow. He could have gone bishop d8 here and then something like this, but okay, white is much better. He tried king f8, bring the king closer. I also brought my king closer, but again f4 was simple and good, and he's not really coming through, and this pawn belongs to f4, sometimes being ready for some f5 pushes more quickly. So after f4, yeah, white is much better. Instead, after king f3, rook d8, it's also very good for white, and if you want to challenge yourself again, you can make the decision. Should we try to capitalize on the advantage on the b line with a5, or should we play king e4? Take your time, we will continue with the game, which was a5. I decided to go for it because in case of this king move here, it was not so clear to me, because this rook will enter on this excellent square, and if I'm waiting too long, he will put pressure here. If I go a5, then what was I afraid of? Actually, I don't know. Because takes. This does not seem bad for white, I think. Maybe this move annoyed me. And then just... But I cannot even play bishop b6 because just takes. Yeah, this looks fine for white as well. So what's wrong with king e4? Maybe there is nothing wrong. Had I been afraid of something? Actually, as I see it now, it should be fine. It should be a huge advantage as well. Let's check. Yeah, it's great. So you can play king e4 because rook d5, then this should work. Because this. I have some targets. Also, if he protects, I might just try to create other weaknesses. So let's check again. Is this still winning for white? Yes, this is winning for white. Black won't really succeed with the a-pawn. This bishop won't find a stable spot because otherwise the a-pawn cannot move, and white is much better. White is winning. So that was a good alternative. However, I decided to go for the second or a 7th rank. I took on d4 first, but I could also take on b7 first. I decided to go for this. And here white has a winning position as well, but not as I played it. I played rook to b2, but it was more accurate to take here and then give a check, because there are two weaknesses and the king can just go to one side. If it goes here, I will come in here. He needs to go passive with the rook, because otherwise my e-pawn is too dangerous. And then I just bring the king. Black has no counterplay, needs to stay passive or lose a pawn. And white is winning. And in the other line, it should be very similar. Probably I attack the c-pawn as well. He needs to defend, and he has no real counterplay, because I will put my king there, the c-pawn will be weak, the a-pawn will be weak, and so on. However, I played rook to b2, trying to get in on the 7th, but he would have a strong response with rook c8. So I cannot really take and give a check, because he can play rook c7 and he's okay, more or less. White is still a lot better here, but not winning yet. Instead he played rook d8, played a6, and still rook c8 is the move to go, but he played c5. And now I took, gave a check, rook b5. Could also have started with rook b7 and bringing the king. And after something like this, f4. Now he cannot take, because the pawn ending is lost due to the f5 break. So he needs to be more patient, for example g6, but then I can give a check and attack this guy. And white is winning. So I instead decided to attack the c5 pawn, with the idea that he cannot defend like this, because then he has no rook d7 any longer, and rook c7 is of course not possible, and I win. But he defended rook d5. I centralized, g6 f4, and I played h3. Check, going back. This is all fine, but now I blundered it away a little bit for one move. I should have started like this and then went g4, for example. The key point is that now he can never play something like c4 with counterplay, because the pawn ending is just lost, because c-pawn drops. However, in the game I chose a stupid moment for this g4 move, because now he could play c4. Because this pawn ending is not the same. He has two connected passed pawns and it's a draw. You can convince yourself if you want to analyze it, but trust me, it's a draw. And here, yeah, the c-pawn creates counterplay, so if I start targeting this pawn will become dangerous. So also this, if you're interested, you can analyze it in detail. So let's go back. He didn't take his chance. He was also very low on time. He played takes, takes. Still c4 is saving him, but after king d8 he was lost here. I attacked this pawn, forced him to go back, won the c-pawn. He went passive and I could just trade the rooks, because the pawn ending was winning. And he resigned around here, because my king would come in and the g-pawn would promote, or I would win the e6 pawn with a winning position. So yeah, this was quite a smooth game, I would say, with some ups and downs. I gave some chances which I shouldn't have given, but after all it was pressure all the time, and I was very happy to have won this game. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If so, please like and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.